right now, because joining us right now on the Farm Bureau phone line, check out favorites.com and go with the home team. Mississippi Farm Bureau is Luke Johnson. He's co-host of the SuperTalk Eagle Hour, SuperTalk Hattiesburg, and SuperTalk Laurel, of course, available online at supertalk.fm. Hey, Luke.
What's up, Richard? How you Tuesday going?
Good, man. It's a great Tuesday. Always glad to visit with you. I don't know how much unpacking we do from Saturday night in Tuscaloosa. 63-14, the final. Couple of touchdown passes for Ty Keys in the game. I don't know what we anticipated the result being going in. I don't know how far this is off from maybe what you thought about the game going in. Just general thoughts. Alabama Southern Miss this past Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, really, the speed was it. There's no excuse to give up 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown, but yeah, I felt like Bama would cover just simply being the speed in their secondary, and they did. We talked about last week a few things. What could you do against Bama? 1 or 2 bright spots that you could build on going forward. 9 sacks against Troy. They only gave up 2 sacks against Bama. Ty Keys moved the ball early in the game. Southern Miss went for it like 4th and 2 inside the Alabama's 35. Great play call. He threw it to the wrong receiver and threw an interception. They moved the ball at times. Of course, Bama was really strong on it. But you take away the 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown, and you had a chance maybe to score 17 or 21 against Bama. It was a game where Ty Keys was forced to grow up. And so you saw the play calling being a little more. I'm really not trying to be the eternal optimist, but I feel like that Southern Miss improved in this game as much as you can improve in a 63-14 beatdown. But I felt like had they played that way offensively in the first game, they probably would have had a great chance to beat South Alabama, and maybe even last week against Troy had 1 turnover. And they forced Bryce Young into throwing his first interception of the year. So as much as you can say positively about getting beat by, 6-7 touchdowns, there it is.
Ty Keys, you mentioned a second ago, makes a poor decision on an early 4th down conversion, but it does have a couple of touchdown passes, moves around, does some things with his feet. Building block game for Ty Keys, play in front of 100,000 on the road, and as good a defense as he's going to see, certainly this year, maybe for his entire career. You think there are takeaways where it feels like, okay, maybe this is starting to settle in, and there's still going to be some growing pains along the way, but this is your guy.
I think so. I mean, there's nothing else that would lead otherwise. I kind of like the fact he had to play in a big game like this. You can't make excuses. You're outmatched. You're outgunned. You know it. You know it going in. There's no way you're going to be able to stop them, when they're on the offensive side of the field. But they fought. I mean, and Ty Keys went back out there, other than I think maybe one play where Chandler Pittman maybe got in the shotgun. It was all Ty Keys. I mean, he was out there getting hit and playing to the last offensive series. So if you're going to throw him in there, throw him against the very best, because that type of experience is invaluable, this week and in the coming weeks when you won't face even a shadow of what you face Saturday.
Yeah. So moving forward, kind of back into the proper weight class, going into conference play for the rest of the way. Luke, a few weeks ago we kind of broke down the season in segments, and 1-3 through the first 4 was kind of worst case scenario. You wanted to be at worst 2-2. Would have loved to have been 3-1. Clearly that hasn't happened. So kind of taking this next portion of the schedule. Got to go to Rice this week. Then a home game against UTEP. They're not very good. Home game against UAB. They're pretty darn good. And then a road trip to Middle Tennessee. What are we seeing in this kind of next quarter, or I guess third of the season?
I mean, it's 3 very winnable games. Rice, obviously they've played Arkansas, Houston, and Texas 3 out of their first 4. And they played Arkansas pretty well. It got out of hand towards the end, but the game was pretty close for, 2.5, 3 quarters. I think Southern Miss, with the playbook being more open now, Ty Keys having 2.5 games to try to settle in. I think you look at this and you can hopefully win this week, and you got a real good chance to win Middle Tennessee. UAB, you probably will. That'll be tough sledding, and UTEP may be a toss-up. Interesting little tidbit about UTEP. Dave Warner, who was the wide receiver coach on the 2003 Southern Miss Conference Championship team I played with, he's been the OC at Michigan State for the last 10 years. And so Dana Dimmel brought him in. And so that's, if you see any improvement from UTEP this year, that's a former Big Ten coordinator who was really good for a long time. Kirk Cousins, quarterback coach, and all that jazz. But anyway, so I feel like 2-2 is very possible. Hopefully, even 3-1. But I mean, if you're a Southern Miss fan, again, you're looking at this and you're saying, man, we should beat Rice, we should beat UTEP, we should beat Middle Tennessee, but it's not a normal year, and it's not what it has been. But you say if you don't give teams opportunities to score like you did against South Alabama, and if you can actually block and have a fairly open playbook, you got a better chance in these 4 than you did in the first 3 outside Bama.
Who's the best team in Conference USA right now?
Believe it or not, it's probably UTSA. Marshall.
Good win for them against Memphis on the road this past week.
Memphis and Illinois, they've beaten on the road this year. And, we thought they might, other than UAB, they might finish second or third, depending on what Louisiana Tech has done. But, yeah, I would say they're 4-0 out in front, 2 good road wins, and I think they're the front runner until they have to play UAB.
Yeah. We'll see how it shakes out. I think this is what you were. Well, I don't know if this was the road you were headed down a second ago. You're saying 2-2 or 3-1 in a normal year over the next 4 games, and feel really good about that. Have we reached the point at 1-3? And I know it's still early in the year where you say, okay, just forget about the record, and we don't get to do that because it's all about wins and losses. But this season has to be about seeing little bits of improvement, finding positives, getting incrementally better so that you can really start to build the foundation for the future. Is that Pollyanna? Or is that reality? Is that something that Southern Miss fans can get behind, or just, no, I'm way off base?
No, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think last year you got a mulligan simply what they had to face. And so I think that's why a lot of people were saying, okay, our rebuild year is over. At the same token, what Will Hall, I think, is finding out, what he inherited. I think, offensively on the offensive line, you have a lot of guys with experience, but, as a unit, they weren't that great. And so your most experienced guys, they weren't really that good. And so I think that was a part of it that was overrated. And you got in a few games and you saw that. Then you lose your starting quarterback. What they are excited about is they have lots of young skill guys. I'm not sure if you saw anything Chandler Pittman did, but man, what an athlete. He scored the first touchdown of the game. And you look at some of the other young guys. Will Hall talked about that postgame, just how many young guys they're lining up. And, Bama did what Bama did offensively, but there's a lot of guys flying around on the field on the defensive side. A lot of local guys too. So I think that's what's encouraging to Will Hall. I think he's just having to swallow a bitter taste for longer than what maybe he thought he would. But yeah, I think there's still a road to 5 wins, maybe even 6 if a few things fall right. And so some of the pipe dream of 8 or 9, obviously there's just no way that it's going to happen, especially with a quarterback. So if you can get to 500, I think it's an exceptional year in his first year.
About 30 seconds left. Anything else interesting going on in and around Southern Miss athletics right now?
Yeah, there's talk, Britt McMurphy talking today that Air Force and Colorado State may be headed to the AAC as soon as next week. So I think when you see the American shakeout, there's a real good chance we might look up and Southern Miss might be headed to the Sun Belt next week or in the next few weeks.
Is that something that would make people excited?
I think so. I think from a multiple sports perspective, you start looking at what baseball would be like. It would be amazing. And less travel, and people can be able to travel a lot. So I think it'd be welcome for all kinds of – and see if Marshall comes, if UAB goes to the American. But you don't want to be left. Conference USA is on the way out for sure.
Yeah. Luke, thanks for your time as always. Good visiting.